But they would like to know in advance if you're planning on coming. I don't want Wade to attempt to fix food for a large crowd, but we let him know he can fix what he wants, and if we're planning on going, we can take things too. If there's enough of us, we can select a time to go. We can meet here at the church, we can drive up together, or we can go in a church van. The game starts at 7 p.m. and Wade's going to start tailgating at noon. So I can promise you I won't be there for that whole day. I might, be there mid-afternoon. But if you would like to do that, there's two opportunities there. We can get to see Jake again. Jake will be playing for Tusculum, but also Paul Scott, Tawana's son. He plays for North Greenville. And I don't know, I haven't talked to Tawana about this, but they may also possibly tailgate. So think about this. Taylor, if you would Facebook me in the next day or two just as a reminder, and I'll Facebook the class with a reminder, and y'all can respond on Facebook, talk to your spouses, see if your kids want to go, arrange for childcare, whatnot. But that's 2 weekends away, not next Saturday, but the following Saturday. But we can go up and hang out with them and have a good time with them. Okay, are there any other announcements for the class? Anything coming up that y'all want to throw out there? Or I'm not sure of anything. That was the only one. Okay, all right. Okay, now, is there anybody not here 2 weeks ago that did not get all of the cheat sheets from the book, The World's Easiest Guide to Finances? Anybody in the room this morning? Y'all weren't here. Okay. All right. Now, this is dependent upon y'all's participation. I told y'all last time we met, we talked a little bit about budgeting, gave you the cheat sheets, and then said that we'd come back today and we would just ask questions, bounce ideas off of one another, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what seems to be the biggest pitfall, etc. As an icebreaker, I'm going to throw Caroline and Joe out, and I just heard something in passing last night. Alonzo, come on in. Going good. Alonzo, we started a couple weeks ago a financial study, and that's the cheat sheets. That's all the budgeting stuff and credit card stuff and mortgage stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, by the way, had mortgage rates started going up the last time we met? Because they're definitely going up now. So, again, economies, they're cyclical, and they never stay down for long, and they never stay up for long. They always take and we may have gone through a very historic period where some of us were able to take advantage of the lowest interest rates mortgage-wise in history. So it looks like they're on the way back up. And I'm not smart enough to know what that means for the overall economy. I don't know if that's a sign of economic strength or of what that is, but I know all of these manipulations mean something, but I don't know. Anyway, I was going to get the conversation started with Joe and Caroline, because y'all know that Joe's a doctor, right? Now, how many in the room would think, man, a doctor, they don't have money problems? Would anybody assume that? Would you be honest? I could think that. Hey, Joe's rolling in it, right? But here was something that here was something that I found interesting. We didn't even talk about it, just in passing. And in this statement, I realized, guess what? Joe's a real dude. He's just like Lamar and Paula. Joe and Caroline have a long-term goal of building a house on a piece of property that they have purchased. And I think it was Caroline that made the statement last night. Joe and I were talking just the other day about getting back on our budget. Really? Imagine that. The doctor can't just run out and have 2 houses. You know what that means, y'all? That means finances are real-world issues. They're real-world issues. They affect us all. And I'll go back to something that I said a few weeks ago when we started this, and then I'm going to open it up to questions and comments, encouragement, struggles. If you can't manage $5, you can't manage $500, and you can't manage $500,000. Probably most people in this room have at least made the statement of what they would do if they won the lottery. Now, if most of us have made the statement what we would do if we won the lottery, then it's probably safe to assume that some of us, from time to time, have bought a lottery ticket. Can I tell you this? If any one of us won the lottery, won Sunday's numbers, which I have no clue what they are now, if we won Powerball tonight, if any one of us won Powerball tonight, do you realize that the same financial struggles would meet us at the end of the month after we put the earnings in our bank account? Because finances are habitual. They're habits. And what you do with the cash in your pocket, what you do with the cash in your 401, or what you do with the investment in your 401k, what you do with your savings account, et cetera, that's what you're going to do. And so if you can't hang on to $500, you can't hang on to $500,000. So that's just the reality. So now that we've broken the ice and realized that, man, doctors really do budget, so it's okay for the rest of us to talk about it. Let's just see if there are any questions, if there are any comments, if there are any particular struggles. We got some young folks. We got some folks getting ready to get started. We got some folks who've been doing this for a long time, and maybe we can help one another this morning. This morning will be a discussion. Next week we'll move to the next section of the book. So, who wants to get things started?
You're talking about budgeting $50 and budgeting $500. You know, I think young people, especially if they see people in big houses, they think, oh, those houses are, they can afford those houses. You know, you just got a loan for the house.
That's right.
And that's another thing, you know, I try to tell the boys, if people live in big houses, have big payments, that doesn't mean that they, you know, lots of times there's no furniture in them, they can't afford. Everything's leased, everything. And, you know, I try to tell them, you know, if you really look at Dave Ramsey and his ideas on how to afford things, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I mean, it's very overwhelming for younger people that think, well, hey, you can't pay cash and you can't, but, you know, I've seen people live on $70,000 and have 3 kids and live comfortably and go on vacations there as well as people that
Right.
make $1 million.
Right.
And it's only because they budget very well.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw something out there, and I haven't even had his permission. So, Mike, if you want me to stop talking now, I will. But I'm fixing to throw Mike out there in front of everybody. Mike, by his own desire and design, does not live like the rest of us. And he says he has no intention of living like the rest of us. Mike has his own business. he's self-employed, and he does not feel that he is in the rat race. And he's able to do what he does by being very meticulous with his budgeting, and also, well, would you say you make some sacrifices regarding certain things and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll know a little bit about my situation. I think most people are driven. You know, they set these goals of, you know, they want this bigger house or this faster car, and my goals are, you know, I can't wait to get in a smaller house and a 3-cylinder car. You know, instead of going out and trying to make more money, I want to try to make the money that I make go further.
Right.
But it's still a challenge. I mean, when you're self-employed, it's hard to budget things because I buy and sell things, right? So you get a little bit of money ahead and you think you're doing good, and then here comes a deal that you got to buy. So you had to spend money to purchase that. I don't have that $20,000 bankroll that I can just play with like I would love to have, but I still need to work on my budget. But I mean, there's a lot of people that use coupons and look for deals and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I got a thrifty wife that, you know, she's good at that.
But you do a lot of grocery shopping too.
And
I
so
heard-
am I. Yeah.
I heard her.
Yeah.
Deborah's talked about the budget around Lynn. I mean, I think Lynn's heard it and I've heard it, and it's just a different way of thinking about what you spend, because she and I talked about one time when we were doing Dave Ramsey. When you put that money into an envelope for your month,
Yeah.
and then you know, okay, this is what we're gonna eat out on, or this is what, I mean, when we did it, I'm telling you, it seemed like we had more money.
Oh, there's no.
Right.
I know that sounds weird, but
Dave Ramsey is gonna be at Abner Creek Baptist Church sometime this month.
Really?
Yeah, there's a sign outside of Abner Creek School.
Well, my cousin is a minister at Anderson Mill, and he's gone through Dave Ramsey, and they have 5 kids, and their house is paid for. And he's my age, you know. Well, so,
Talking about, you know, you would think doctors have a lot of money. Let me just tell you about a couple of my partners right quick.
they think we look poor.
We do, but,
Just because we don't buy big houses.
Right.
A hovel, that's what we.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, I noticed, you know, I didn't come from a doctor family. You know, I had 2 working parents, and we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't come up like a lot of my partners. But, you know, you look around, doctors work, especially surgeons, an incessant amount of hours. And most of that is to keep up with what they've already bought, not what they want. And to keep their wife at the country club playing tennis all day. It's a lifestyle thing.
That's what my dad used to call bill poor.
It's
Right.
for
You can
lifestyle.
make yourself bill poor.
Yeah.
So many bills,
And
but
house
you got
poor.
money for nothing else.
That's right.
I have one partner who's already bankrupted before he was 40, had to move, came to Greenville. He works like a dog. I mean, he's
Mhm.
a hard-working guy, and he makes a lot more than I do because he works hard. But he does that because he has to.
Right.
He bankrupted there, came here, bought a $700,000 house in Spalding Farms,
Can you imagine?
110% financing.
Ooh.
110% finance, so he could put it, you know, all on the mortgage. And not long ago, I heard him say, do any of y'all have any call y'all need to get rid of? I need it. He needs to take more call. We don't get paid for call, you just get paid if you do things on call, right? So you've got 2 kids that are young, he's having to take more call because he just had to sell a property on credit in Myrtle Beach for a third of what he gave for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to borrow $50,000 from his parents. His parents are 80 years old. He had to borrow $50,000 to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
So he can take our call to pay back his parents.
And I suspect his kids are in high school too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But his kids go to $30,000 a year grammar school.
Yeah.
Because that's the lifestyle. That's
Right.
That's where the cardiologist kids go. So that's where his has got to go.
Let me just say this about
And it's
you know,
Your lifestyle.
in my response to the story that Joe just told, I realize that when y'all look at the cheat sheets that I gave y'all, I realize it can be information overload.
It's real, it's just unbelievable.
But I'm telling you, the information on these sheets will guide you away from the very thing that Joe just described. And you say, well, you're talking about somebody that bought a $700,000 house. So what? What if you buy a $200,000 house?
I mean, he's making a good bit of money, and he could have.
It doesn't matter. Don't get into it. Let me remind you what I always heard my dad say that my grandfather told him. Son, if you won't save when you don't have it, you won't save when you do have it. And he told my dad, he said, Edward, if all you have is a quarter a week, start saving. And my dad told me, as an old man in his 50s, he said, I never took him up on his advice. So again, this is the real world, and it is very habitual. And if you want to make a change, you've got to be intentional about it. Now, here's something that, going back to Mike and Deborah's situation, Mike and Deborah are very much in partnership with regards to their lifestyle, their purchasing, how thrifty they are, how they search for deals, how they use coupons, etc., etc. Take a lesson, everybody in the room. If you are in a relationship and one person is going one way financially and the other person is going the other way financially, you're never going to accomplish anything financially. You're going to be continually financially frustrated. One person can't save while the other person spends and it work out. You've got to meet at a point of agreement that works for you. So keep those things in mind as well.
Something that gets Scott and I is we'll get a purchase in our head and we'll talk ourselves into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened to us this past summer. And we talked ourselves into a purchase that we should not have done.
Right.
And so now we're backtracking, trying to say, okay, can we sell it? Can we, and so, but with the savings, something that's worked for us because we like the quick buy,
Mm-hmm.
is we have like a money market account that just a cash account in like Edward Jones. That it's there if like something happens to the car or we need, something happens that we need a cash real quick. We can get it the next day, but it's not that quick kind of, oh, now you can't leave the store without it kind of.
You have a cooling off period.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's so
a good
important
idea.
for us because, there's been some instances like baby that came up and it was like, we don't have any
Right.
cash, but there it was. And we were able to pay some of the out-of-pocket medical expenses, with that.
Right.
Because I was putting it straight out of my check into there. Don't see it, out of sight, out of mind, out of my little spreadsheet that I play
Right.
with, with our so-called budget. And, so it was there, but, that's something that's helped us. But then again, we still slip and make a huge purchase and it's like,
Yeah.
dang, we just paid off all the credit cards.
Well,
Yeah.
Literally had all the credit cards
Let me
done.
back up on this purchase thing. What we've done this summer,
We talked ourselves into it.
well,
That's it.
another thing, it's a long story, but what we had would not sell as good if we didn't purchase this
Right.
other part to add to it.
Sure.
Add value to it.
Right.
Value to it to make it a whole.
Right.
So, we shouldn't have, but then again, I think we've done pretty good.
Yeah.
So now we just got,
Now
we
we get
got
rid
a
of
whole,
all of it.
and once we sell it, all those be gone. Won't be like that.
Hey, let me throw this. This was completely not on my radar, but when he just said that, it just triggered a little thing in my mind, a thought in my mind. Let me tell you where saving becomes really, really advantageous. Do y'all know that in economic downturns, more wealth is made than is lost? Do y'all know that? Do you know, we go back and we study history, economic history, and we study the Great Depression. Do you know that more wealth was made during the Great Depression than was lost? Nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to talk about the people going nuts and jumping out the high-rises on Wall Street and committing suicide. In every economic downturn, there are purchases that can be made for pennies on the dollar. And the person who has a savings with a cash flow, because in economic downturns, financing may not be easily obtainable, but cash is always king. And
That's like when GM went through what it did. They were selling for like 21 cents a share.
That's exactly.
Up to like $31 or something like that. So if you had money,
That's exactly right.
you know, if you were buying when people were selling.
You see it in the stock market. You see it in property. You see it in, listen, all across the country, when the bubble burst, and the housing market plummeted, and houses were selling for a third of their building cost, there were people who quietly went in and bought the houses, paid cash for them, closed them up, and sitting on them. What they waiting on? They waiting on the market to go back up. And they're going to sell that house at fair market value and still make a profit on it. So that's just one little caveat of being serious about savings, having a protection there, having a safety net, and having a surplus, because somewhere down the road it can be very beneficial to you. Now let me say this, because I think I have more trouble with my eating than I do my budget, but I want to talk about. I mentioned the habitual nature. We are creatures of habit, and so this is a little tidbit that I think, if everybody in this room, if you identify with me, what I'm about to say, if we were to watch it for a 2-week period, we would be shocked. Let me ask this question, because there's a couple in our class that's not here today, and he came up to me the last class and he said, "Dude, our biggest problem's eating out." How many of you would say that a big major whammy to your budget is eating out? Got a few in this room. Okay. All right, now. The average human being on a daily basis eats 2/3 more food than they think they do in America. I said human beings. I should have said Americans. Americans are the heaviest country on the planet. We're overweight by a greater percentage than anybody else. And most of us, myself included, I can go through the day and I can say, man, I didn't do too bad today. And then tomorrow, and then Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday. And you know what? After a week of doing really good, my pants are tighter. If I was doing really good, I wouldn't have got, and listen, I'm so far beyond getting on a scale. I hadn't got on a scale in 2 years, y'all. I refuse to get on a scale. I refuse to get on a scale. But I know how my clothes fit. And I've been doing good, y'all. And my shirts get tighter and my pants get tighter. You know what the problem is? I'm eating 2/3 more food than I really imagined. Yeah, you can.
Today, having 3 kids now, it's to the point. Yeah, I'd rather go spend that $15, $20 to eat than trying to hustle around the house and cook.
Yeah. Well, now let's look at this. Here's the thing: if eating out, here's where if eating out's your problem. Remember the cheat sheets. All those were guidelines, and I don't even have any cash in my pocket. If you got any cash, Kyle? You moved like you had a little bit of cash. Just give me some cash. It don't matter. Just a bill or two. If eating out seems to be a hindrance to your, you ain't never getting it back. If eating out seems to be a hindrance to your overall budget, chances are that most of your eating out purchases are like this. Out of pocket. It's in the pocket, it's gone. It's in the pocket, it's gone. Well, what I would suggest is, because here's the thing. Look, y'all, we live in a real world. The other family that told me this, 2 kids in school sports. No, absolutely no stability with daily schedules. Okay, yeah, practices are set and you know what time you're going to get home. But what happens when you got a home game on Tuesday, but you've got an away game on Thursday, and next Tuesday you got an away game that's further than Thursday's? Or what you see? What's hey, it's life. So all we got to do then is, if the eating out thing, then you got to get it in the budget. Give it a grocery line. Paul and I used to fight this battle, and with Logan driving more and being gone more and doing his own thing with his own money, sometimes it's a whole lot quicker and a whole lot cheaper for us to go out and eat and run through a drive-through or whatever. But you know what we've started doing? We combine the grocery budget and the eating out budget. And so we it all goes into that proverbial envelope system, and we know how much is allotted, and when it's gone, it's gone. But you know what? We eat out. We've eaten out. I don't know any pastors that don't eat out on Sundays. I've eaten out on Sundays as long as I've been in ministry. It's always been part of our budget. It has always, Sundays eating out has always been a part of our budget. So there are little ways, and remember, the categories that you see, some of them may not fit for you. Like we talked about, Rodney and Rodney and Kim, they don't have to worry about putting a kid in college anymore unless they want to do something for Grace. But they don't have to worry about it. Their kids are grown. But there's still a category for that. They strike through education and put something else in that category. So that might be helpful to someone. What time is it, Kyle? We got about 5 more minutes. Who else has got a comment? Taylor, you're young. You're not even married yet, but you want to be. What did you and Jake talk about with regards to your future in finances?
We talk about having to save. We want to have money saved up before we even talk about getting married. We don't just go into it with nothing.
Okay. That is not a bad method. Y'all are on the right track. Stick to it. Find some good financial mentors. If it's your parents, fine. If it's his parents, fine. If it's friends, fine. I don't know. I'm gonna throw in. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not gonna throw their name out because they don't even come to class, and if they saw this on YouTube, they might be. We didn't give you permission to talk about us. There's a young couple. There's a young couple in this church, and you would be amazed at the amount of food that they grow in their garden and put up. Can it, freeze it, whatnot. And it's a tremendous savings for those two. A tremendous savings for those two. They've incorporated that into their overall lifestyle. So there's all kinds of a variety of ways to do things. Joe.
Quick comment. Especially my age and younger, I think a lot of, especially watching my friends, the ones that have not done well, idea that as soon as we're married, we're supposed to have the house our parents do,
Mm-hmm.
or that we're supposed to drive the new cars like our parents do. What we don't remember is that they didn't have that when they were 20.
That's exactly right.
My folks lived in a trailer for 3 years so they could pay for the spot of dirt across the road to build the house. So, patience is, I think, a big thing a lot of we don't have anymore. And the other thing you were talking about, well, one thing I've thought about early on and have tried to remember is the Bible is very clear about the debtor is slave to the
Mm-hmm.
lender.
That's right.
So what I've always tried to think of, is it worth putting myself into slavery to
That's right.
have that now?
Yeah.
Is it worth financing
Yeah.
so that I have to work that next Saturday? I don't have a choice in the matter. It's a trade-off a lot of times. Is it worth it?
Right.
And sometimes patience can go a
Yeah.
long way, because I've wanted certain things for a long, long time that I'm not even there yet.
Yeah.
And I could have financed it.
Yeah.
But it would have really changed your options
Right.
on what you can and can't do.
I told them we could find a 4-bedroom mill house, that's what we'd do.
Yeah.
The kids coming up, they'd be wanting to do so much.
Right.
I don't want to have to be working a second job to,
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Another part of you talking about being on the same page with your wife. His wife spends every dollar he makes, and he won't confront her about it because it's
Right.
a big fight in their marriage. So as long as he's making it, she's spending it, they're happy.
Yeah.
But he comes to me, he's 54 years old, he comes to me for advice on
Right.
what should I do? Because if we get, the end of the year, if there's a little money left in the kitty, there's a bonus, he comes to me to ask me what to do with it.
Yeah.
He wants to hide it in the gun safe so his wife doesn't know about it.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And he's told me several times, I have no fear. His worst fear is he can't work anymore.
Right.
He says I'll die at the table because I'll never retire, and I'm cool with that.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I told him, not me, dude.
Yeah.
I'm operating when I'm 70. It's because I'm doing it for free in the Dominican or something.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this forever.
Right.
So, he had no options.
Yeah.
Because he's leveraged it all.
I'm going to say this, and it may come back up later on, and it may not. But there's little tidbits. Joe's mentioned the Bible talking about the lender. The borrower is slave to the lender. Jesus said you cannot serve both God and money. Mammon in the King James was another word for money. You can't serve God and mammon. And so right there, Jesus gives us a vivid picture that for most of us, it's easy to fall into a trap of allowing money to become our idol or our God. And so here's what's important to realize. Money is a vehicle. Money is a tool. As long as you use that tool wisely, it will get you where you want to go. You really can accomplish very serious goals, but as long as it's an idol, it will always keep you in financial turmoil because you'll never have enough and you'll make really, really bad decisions regarding maintaining the idol. I'm just going to be honest with you. When people see this, they're going to say, yeah, we knew he was crazy, but that's just another one to add into it. A lot of you don't realize it, but it wasn't until the 1950s that we put on the American money in God we trust. There are people actually in this church who were alive when their money didn't have in God we trust on it. That came about in the 1950s. And people like atheists and things like, they want to remove that. Listen, y'all, for 20 years, I could care less. I really could care less. I don't think taking in God we trust off of our money matters one whit. In fact, I think if we wanted to be honest as a nation, we ought to replace it in this dollar or this bill or this coin we trust. I think money has become an idol for many of us who are living in America, in the American economy, and living that way. All right, I'm going to let y'all go. It's good to see y'all. We will be back next week, and we'll move to the next section. Thank y'all for y'all's contribution today. It was great.